Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Commander Scores Studio. Welcome to the show. So in today's episode, I'm going to be talking about an interesting topic with Commanders for the Brave. Are you brave enough to take on these commanders? Take on the challenge of building around these commanders, utilizing them to their fullest, and unlocking those secrets of their potential. Let's talk about some amazing commanders that you might be skipping on right now that you need to take a second look at, and some that basically no one's taking a look at. So with all that said, let's jump into it. First off, one of my favorites in this list, perhaps my favorite one, Myojin of Seeing Winds. This has 27 decks to its name. Not 127, not 1,027, not 27,000, which would be a lot. No. Just 27 decks to its name, according to EDH Rec, for a couple of reasons. It is a 3/3 for 10 mana. Yep. Spirit, when it comes into play with a divinity counter on it, if you play it from your hand. So here's the thing about Commander is you're not playing this from your hand. You're not doing that. That being said, it's indestructible as long as it has a divinity counter on it. By removing a divinity counter from it, you draw a card for each permanent you control. So again, because this is your commander and you're playing for the command zone, players like, I don't want to, I don't get anything out of it. It's just a 3/3, right? Because I don't get that divinity counter. Here's the thing. You're in mono blue, so you've got plenty of ways to just burst out mana very quickly again with like untap effects like Dramatic Reversal, and then be able to say, okay, let's get the commander into play. I get nothing out of it. Bounce it back to my hand, replay it. When you do, you set yourself up for absurd plays, like, I don't know, proliferating it, taking that off, and then all of a sudden drawing an absurd amount of cards for a single permanent you control. Yeah, sign me up for that. And if you want to sign up for that, make sure you check out my deck tech on this. But yes, this is a commander that, again, sees no play. 27 decks on EDH Rec. That is absurdly low. One of the lowest commanders of all time. But I'm telling you right now, it is a powerhouse when you work it the right way. First up, like High Tide. Okay, again, bursty mana. You can utilize this to just surprise your opponents in a turn. Get your commander out, get it back in your hand, get it back out if you need to, potentially even. Until end of turn, whenever a player taps down for mana, get an extra blue. You can also maybe copy this too as well, because you can copy spells in blue too, and do some really crazy things with this. Next up, like I mentioned, Dramatic Reversal, those untap effects. You get a lot of mana rocks in play, and again, the more things you get into play, the better for your Myojin. On top of that, again, it's like a ritual effect for you. Pay 2 mana, cast instant speed, untap every one of your non-land permanents, tap them again for mana, bursty, get your commander out, get it out again, potentially even again in the same turn. Dreamstone Hadron, again, plenty of a fantastic, efficient mana rocks that are quite high in mana cost, but yeah, give you a lot of mana back in return. Tap for 3, pay 3 tap sacrifice, draw 3 cards. Again, the more and more mana rocks you can play, the better. Crystal Shard. Again, there are plenty of ways to bounce your commander back to your hand. Again, a lot of spells in blue bounce, but also repeatable effects too. Pay 3 and tap, or a single blue and tap. Bring back a creature back to its owner's hand unless they pay 1. Here's the thing. Against your opponents, hey, if they tap out, cool. Bounce a creature back to their hand. They're not going to pay for that. That being said, yeah, just do it on your own commander and don't pay it. And all of a sudden, you bounce your commander back to your hand, replay it, and get that divinity counter on it. Indestructible. And also, you can proliferate that so you can utilize more than one divinity counter. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, proliferate. Very simple, very effective. A lot of non-creature spells going to be in this deck. You cast a mana rock, congratulations. Proliferate, that's an extra divinity counter on your commander. Make sure you at least keep one on at a time. Essentially, never get rid of the last one if you don't have to. And then, yeah, do this. Draw a lot of cards with it. Again, removing a single divinity counter from your commander equals like 10 plus cards quite easily. Draw into more things to help you win the game. And when it comes to winning the game, very simple, very effective. Yeah, you could Lab Maniac win potentially, or like a Psychosis Crawler, right? Get this into play. All of a sudden, well, it's going to be absolutely massive, which is cool. More importantly, though, whenever you draw a card, each opponent loses 1 life. You can very, very easily, even if all your opponents are at 40 life, right? They're starting life totals. You can be like, okay, yeah, I can very easily draw 40 cards in a single turn quite easily, again, just by simply proliferating, getting more counters on my commander, removing those counters, and saying, okay, I drew 40 cards. You're all gone. Yay. Bye. So, yeah, again, this commander is one that I understand why certain players out there don't play it, because again, you're like, oh, it doesn't do anything, because like you have to get it from your hand into play to actually get to, take advantage of that. There are ways to do it. There are ways to get your commander into your hand, be able to actually utilize that. Once you get that counter on it the first time, proliferate, your opponents are in huge trouble. So yeah, definitely a really cool commander, and again, one that is an underrated powerhouse in my opinion for the right build out there. Next up, a commander with only 104 decks to its name, according to EDH Rec, Kuan Ogre Ascendant. Here we go. At the end of turn, if there are 3 or more creatures put in graveyards from play this turn, you flip it. Yeah, it's a flip commander. Pretty crazy. Pretty weird. Black, 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 just 3 mana. So essentially, we just need 3 creatures at the graveyard. It can be anyone's creatures. Anyone's creatures at the graveyard, and all of a sudden we flip it. Turns into the essence at the beginning of each player's upkeep. The player sacrifices a creature, legendary enchantment. So again, very easy to flip. And once it's in play, it is a brutal effect that we can take advantage of. And we can ensure that our opponents are not going to be taking advantage of that. They are going to be absolutely miserable because they can't keep any creatures in play. And unless they deal with this, well, it's just going to happen again, again, and again. And even if they do deal with it against our commander, we get it back into play. We do it again. Very easy to flip this one. Again, we can very simply use a card like Innocent Blood. Source for a single mana. Each player sacrifices a creature. Gross, effective, grossly effective. Again, a single mana to say, hey, you know what? Everyone's got a creature in play, right? Even if you don't have a creature in play, I mean, this is a very good card, but like, you got an extra creature in play. You've got some creature fodder we'll talk about here in a little bit. But yeah, pay 1 mana, get rid of 4 creatures, essentially, right? And all of a sudden, you're like, oh, okay, cool. Oh, yeah, flip my commander. Great. Next up, Raise Summoning Skeleton. Again, you're going to have a lot of creature fodder, a lot of ways to take advantage of this and ensure that you have things to sacrifice. Raise Summoning Skeleton, pay 1 a black, return back from grave to the battlefield. So yeah, an incredible piece of creature fodder you can keep getting back again, again, and again. We also have low to the ground creature fodder that can give us a lot of fodder. Weaponcraft Enthusiast, a 0/1 with Fabricate 2. Either get 2 counters on it, yeah, we're not doing that, or make 2 1/1 servos. Again, basically 3 creatures in 1 to ensure that we can get our commander flipped quite easily. Next up, also, having fodder for things like this can be great. Into one of the Ruin Sage, a 4/3 at the beginning of your upkeep, each player sacrifices a non-vampire creature. Again, with this and our commander flipped in play, hey, everyone's sacrificing 2 creatures every single turn. Good luck to our opponents ever keeping anything in play, especially if we also add in Ruthless Winnower, a 4/4 elf rogue. We give each player's upkeep, that player sacrifices a non-elf creature. Again, by stacking these, by adding these up, all of a sudden, you know what? Your opponents can keep nothing in play. And again, you've got ways to generate creature fodder. You've got ways to ensure that we are going to be fine. We're going to keep things in play. We're also going to take advantage of when his creatures die, like Falconrath Noble, or those Blood Artist type effects. For the, less budget-oriented players, although it's getting down there. Anyways, a 2/2 flyer. Whenever another creature dies or player loses 1 life, you gain life. You can drain your opponents very quickly, very easily with this while controlling the board. And of course, Grey Merchant Massville. Control the board again, get a lot of things out. All of a sudden, Gary. Yeah, I love that Devotion to Black. Each opponent loses X, where X is Devotion to Black. You gain that much life. And again, if you've got ways to get things back into play, like a Feigned Death type effect or like reanimation style effects, get this into play again, again, and again, and drain your opponents out quite quickly. Or take advantage of the creatures they have been sacrificing with Sepulchral Primordial and things like that. 5/4 Intimidate, ETB for each opponent. Gain 1 creature from their library, from their graveyard. That'd be OP. From their graveyard, put it into play under your control, and all of a sudden, again, you're building an army out of their creatures that they are having to sacrifice because of you. So yes, this commander, again, does have a requirement to flip. That being said, it can be quite hard to actually deal with. And because of that, well, you know what? We're just going to control the board. We're going to get creature fodder out, and we're going to just dominate our opponents in a multitude of ways. So yeah, Kuan Ogre Ascendant, you are an underrated powerhouse commander in the waiting. Moving on, let's step things up just a little bit, okay? 895 decks, again, compared to the most played commanders out there. This is absolutely nothing. Actually, for this search, I started off with just like 1,000 or less, and then I got really low down again with Myojin and stuff like that. This, I believe, is the highest amount of decks that I have. Still, Satan Crow's Protector is an underrated commander. One thing, you know what? Most players out there are like, I want elves, elf tribal, right? That's how I get mana. No, this commander says, you know what? The answer is druids. A 2/2 Centaur Druid Legend for 3 mana. I guess Legend, they changed that right. Now it's just a Ledger creature. Centaur Druid. For green, green, green. Tap it, untap Druid you control, add green to your mana pool. Keep in mind, this ignores haste. This ignores haste. Ignores summoning sickness, basically, because again, the abilities on this, you're tapping any of your druids, including this one, right away for mana. That is massive. That is huge. And keep in mind, there's a good amount of druids out there that are very useful. Basically, just a big burst of mana. Elf decks out there, eat your hearts out because druids are here to stay. First up, Llanowar Elves. Yep, even this elf is a druid. A 1/1 elf druid for 1 mana. Tap for a green. This commander makes this even better. I mean, turn 1, this is a great play, right? Turn 1, get this out to play. Turn 2, get your commander onto play. Tap your commander for mana right away, too. Have fun with that. Regardless, if you're getting this out to play after your commander is already in play, hey, normally you wouldn't be able to tap this right away unless it had haste, right? Because of Summoning Sickness. That being said, your commander lets you tap it right away for mana, so it's paying for itself. So all your 1-mana druids are basically free with this commander. There's quite a few of them. Elvish Pioneer, another elf druid for 1. ETB, put a land from your hand into play, tap. So ramp right there, and also, again, get another mana out of this right away. So basically, free ramp spell in a way. Leyline of Abundance, yeah, take advantage of that. If it's in your opening hand, it's for free. Everything's free right in this deck, essentially. Whenever you tap a creature for mana, get additional green. On top of that, pay 8, get a counter creature control. Hey, every single one of those creatures are tapping for mana. Now you get twice as much mana out of that. Again, your little 1/1 elves for 1 mana are now, elves, I said druids. Elf druids are now ritual effects for you. Absolutely huge. Next up, Deeper Historian, 4 mana. That's a lot for one of our druids, right? But we're going to get a lot out of this. Merfolk druid cards in your graveyard have retrace, so you can recast them out of your graveyard by discarding a card. Land card, I should say. So yeah, being able to just cast them out of our graveyard too, that is absolutely huge. Speaking of huge, and I got a little bit out of the budget for this one again. I'm trying to keep all these cards underneath the dollar I'm talking about, but I recommend that if you are building around this, maybe extend your budget just a little bit, just a tiny bit, by 50 cents for 1 card, okay? Gilt Leaf Archdruid, if I could say the name right. 3/3 Elf Druid for 5 mana. Whenever you play a Druid spell, draw a card. Already gross, already absurd with this commander. Again, that can just give you so much mana. Just draw your entire deck, essentially, at a certain point, probably, right? I mean, just draw through your deck. And then also on top of that, let's just win the game. Tap 7 untapped druids you control. Gain control all lands target player controls. Brutal, mean game over for that player. Yeah, they're gone. And yeah, you got ways to essentially ensure that you can just pick everyone else out too. We got untap effects too. We also have Shamanic Revelation, draw cards for each creature you control. And if we got higher power creatures, gain 4 life, but we care about just drawing cards again. So get all these druids out into play, get a lot of mana, draw even more cards, play even more druids. You see where this is going. You can also play Garrick's Horde. Not a druid, a beast, but still, hey, it helps us out. Play with the top card of your library revealed. You may cast the top of your library if it's a creature card. So yeah, just like, oh, it's a druid, play. Oh, it's a druid, play. Oh, it's a druid, play. Tap these all for mana. Have fun with that. Also have fun with Cabal Fist of Krosa. Again, a mana dump for you. You can turn your lands into 1/1s. You can also just pump your creatures. Giant Anthem effect, essentially. Not Anthem, I should say. Overrun type effect. +3/+3 and trample. Swing through with your tiny little druid army, which becomes absolutely massive in absolutely no time. Yeah, Satan Crow's Protector is a crazy good commander. Again, many players that comes to green, they're like, I want elves. No, we want druids. Play with this one. Commanders for the brave. Play with Satan Crow's Protector. But now let's move down to 194 decks to its name. Kazarov, Sengir, Pureblood. Now, you're thinking vampires, right? This isn't your typical vampire commander. Maybe that's why it gets ignored, but you shouldn't be, because this card is a powerhouse, a 4/4 vampire, yes, for 7 mana. We are in 2 colors, though, that are great with rituals. You can get this out pretty quickly and take over the game quite quickly with it, too. Whenever a creature an opponent controls is dealt damage, you get a counter on it. Also, pay 4 mana, 3 and a red, 2 damage to our creature. It's not very efficient right there. That being said, if you need to, great, you can do it. But, of course, hey, this isn't like, hey, whatever an opponent's creature is taken out, you get a counter on this. No, no, no. This is whenever a creature an opponent controls is dealt any amount of damage, get a counter on this for every single creature dealt damage. So, I'm telling you right now, you can turn this into a one-shot KO with, like, a single activation of something, or a single damage spell of something. Or just twice, just like 2 of them, and all of a sudden say one-shot KO. This is going to become a one-shot KO in the blink of an eye at instant speed if you need to. I mean, play Pestilence. How about this one? A very simple 22-cent card. Basically, no creatures in play. You sacrifice it. That being said, pay a black mana, 1 damage each creature and each player. Again, your opponents are going to get creatures up. This is Commander, right? Let's say there's 10 creatures in total that your opponents have. Pay a single mana. Damage them all 1. It might not take any of them out, and all of a sudden, that's 10 counters on your commander. Pay another mana, do the exact same thing again. Your commander is now a one-shot flying KO on any of your opponents. How about another one, though? We've got more examples. Thrashing Wumpus. Pay a single black, 1 damage each creature's player. Exact same thing, essentially, again. Now, keep in mind, this only has 3 toughness, so don't activate more than twice unless you want to take this out, too. That being said, it usually takes like 2 activations to make your commander into a one-shot KO. Absolutely gross. How about Fire Ants? Even a simple card like this that sees no play ever. 2/1 insect, tap for 1 damage each other creature without flying. So again, take out your opponent's creatures, potentially the small ones, but also, yeah, just keep damaging the ones that are slightly larger, which has an impact and just like slightly damages them, makes them more susceptible to get taken out. But also, hey, makes your commander into an unstoppable force that is unblockable against many opponents to do it on flyers. Plague Spitter, a free one every single turn. Beginning of your upkeep, 1 damage each creature each player. This will survive that because it has 2 toughness. Also, when it dies, though, an extra 1 damage each creature each player, which is lovely. Basically, repeatable free Pestilence. So have fun with that, essentially. Being able to say, oh yeah, there's what, like 10 creatures you guys have? Okay, 10 counters on my commander just because I hit my upkeep. Hazardous Blast. This one works very well with our commander. There's a couple different ones of these as well. 4 mana, sorcery speed, 1 damage each creature opponent's control. Creature opponent's control can't block this turn. This is basically like, hey, okay, my commander becomes huge, and also you can't block, and all of a sudden, if you did have a flyer, now you are gone because my commander is coming through unblocked. Rising of the Day, you can surprise your opponents by saying, you know what? I don't feel like waiting. Creatures I control have haste, legend creature control +1 with 0. Again, with like that fire int, you can activate right away, which is nice. But again, with your commander, it's like, okay, I play my commander. I activate this thing, I activate that thing, or whatever, and all of a sudden it's a one-shot KO, swinging right away with haste, and also a little +1 with 0 for legendary creatures, including it. That's lovely too. That's just very nice. Oh, and also I can make this a lot easier to get to with Blood Mist. Beginning of combat on your turn, target creature control gains double strike until end of turn. So now instead of having to get to 21 power, which again is easy to do, yes. But now with this in play, it's like, oh no, you just need to get 7 counters on your commander. If your opponents have 7 creatures and you have 1 effect that deals 1 damage each of them, which is very easy, and you have a lot of those effects, all of a sudden your commander is at 11 power, swing with double strike, hit your opponent, twice take them out with commander damage. Very simple, very effective. So yes, this commander, again, might have a high mana value. Yes, it's not really like a vampire tribal commander, but it is one that can get through on your opponents and become a one-shot KO. Super easy on them. So yeah, Kazarov, seeing your pure blood, you are an underrated commander. Next up, how about Zolto Fire Giant Duke? Just 267 dex to its name for this really cool card. 7/3 Giant Barbarian with trample that costs 5 mana and mono red. Whenever it's dealt damage, venture into the dungeon. So this is a commander that you might think, okay, it's going to be combat oriented, right? Like I want to swing, and if it gets hit, cool. All right, then I get to venture in the dungeon. Yeah, you can definitely go in that direction. But also, again, like I just talked about with Kazarov, there's a lot of ways to ping. And with Kazarov, we wanted to ping our opponent's creatures. With this, we actually want to ping Zolto again, again, and again. Because the amount of value you can get actually out of venturing the dungeon can be an absurd amount. There's so much value to be had by going through and completing dungeons. And of course, you can include some like dungeon-specific cards where it's like, yeah, you can venture further with other cards too. But like, if you just focus on this, you can venture an absurd amount. First up, how about Cathar's Shield? Very simple, very effective. 0 mana equipment, +0/+3 vigilance to our commander, so we can swing more freely again. And also, again, with extra toughness on our commander, means our commander can take more of a beating, including from our own things, from our own pinging effects again. We're only able to ping it twice without taking it out. Now we can ping it 5 times without taking it out, so keep that in mind. We also have Tyrant Sanctum. And other ways to give Indestructible 2 that are a little more expensive, but this one's a great one. Pay 2, tap, target legend creature becomes a god, get a counter on it, so again, some extra toughness there. Pay 4, tap, sacrifice this, indestructible counter on it, so again, it cannot be taken out with damage. So being able to just be like, oh yeah, I'll just keep pinging it. All these different effects, being able to venture in the dungeon further and further and further. And of course, with pinging, of course, we've got so many Tims in red, right? Things that can tap 1 damage to a creature or player. Just keep tapping them. Cunning Spark Mage is a great one. Haste, do it right away, essentially. Again, this is basically tap, venture into the dungeon, thanks to our commander. Also, Endbringer, hey, untap string, every other player's untap step, tap 1 damage to any target. So basically, with each trip around the table, this is venture into the dungeon 4 times. That get us through dungeons very, very quickly for so much value. Speaking of value, though, Defiler of Instinct. Just cost cast red permanent spells, we can pay 2 life. They cost red less to cast, we pay life this way. Only reduce the amount of red mana you pay. On top of that, whenever you cast a red permanent spell, 1 damage to any target. So whenever casting any of our red permanent spells, 1 damage to any target. Yeah, you can utilize that for your opponent's things or your opponent's faces, but yeah, just mostly, hey, keep venturing in the dungeon with our commander for some extra value. Blazing Sunsteel can actually be a combo with this commander as well. Crew creature gets +1/+0 for each opponent you have, which is nice. More importantly, though, whenever crew creature is dealt damage, deals that much damage to any target. So here's the thing. If you can make your commander indestructible and it gets dealt damage, again, just a simple Tim effect for you, deal it damage, and then it gets to deal damage equal that much damage to any target. So then all of a sudden you deal to itself, then deals to itself again, and again, 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 with a loop, essentially venture into the dungeon an infinite number of times, take out your opponents in a wide variety of ways with that. Also with our Tims too, Mob Rule is a great card as well. Basically, choose one, gain control of big creatures, gain control of small creatures, untap all of them. So yes, this can just be a way to have like a mini insurrection, which is nice, but also just untap all your Tims, tap them again for some extra value. So this is a commander that I absolutely love. I think it has so much potential for so much value, and players just think it's like a combat-centric commander potentially, or like you have to include all these like kind of useless dungeon cards in a way to help you venture further. No. This is like, hey, get all the Tims out, do some crazy things, maybe some infinite things with this awesome Zalto Fire Giant Duke commander. Moving on, though, we've got Umori the Collector at 647 decks to its name. I feel like with these companions, sometimes they kind of get slept on as commanders because it's like, okay, I'm going to use it as a companion, or I'll try to find like a commander that can have it as the companion so I get both. But this as a commander is so good. A 4/5 ooze for 2 Golgari. Ignore the companion part again because we're talking about the commander. Enters the battlefield as a card type. We're going to be choosing, well, you can choose any of them, but we're going to be choosing creatures, because with creatures we can do some crazy things. Spells you cast, chosen type cost 1 to cast. This is a cost reducer from our command zone, which can be huge, brutal, and broken when the deck is built correctly. Again, you could go Planeswalkers if you want to go Super Friends, you can go Instant Sorcerers, whatever you want to do. My recommendation is creatures because, well, we got some crazy effects that we can take advantage of, like, hey, Primal Druid. Very simple, very effective, 0/3 for 2 mana. But again, with this commander in play, it just costs a single green mana. When it dies, search life for a basic land, probably battlefield tap, then shuffle. So basically, this is a 1 mana ramp spell for us. And again, it's not the only one. We've got access to other ones in this color as well. Speaking of that, though, we also have free mana effects like Mirror Moon Vessel. Again, we chose creature, which counts artifact creatures, of course. A 1/1 for a single mana goes down to 0. Play this for free. When it's really great from play, you add 1 to your mana pool. So if we can have a way to sacrifice this, which, yeah, we got ways to sacrifice this, we get a free mana out of this, kind of like a ritual effect. So, of course, Dimir House Guard. We have amazing sacrifice outlets in these colors. 2/3 Skeleton with Fear. Sacrifice creature regenerated so it can protect itself, which is great. A free sacrifice outlet for us. Again, take advantage of all those different triggers we're going to be getting, or we can transmute away if we really need to. But again, yeah, a great sacrifice outlet for us. Or Mind Slash, not a free sacrifice outlet, but one that is brutally effective. Pay a black, sacrifice creature. Target opponent reveals their hand, choose a card from it. They discard that card, sorcery speed only. Yeah, with this, once we're set up properly, this is like, okay, play a bunch of free creatures, sacrifice them all. You lose your hand. Now you're top decking. Good luck. Or yeah, you just get rid of the cards that, you don't want them to have. Grim Horror specs, of course, we have so many ways to take advantage of sacrificing creatures, getting extra value out of them, on top of like their own death triggers. Whenever another non-token creature controlled dies, draw a card. So basically, play a free creature, or a creature that's got a reduced cost. Sacrifice it. Get value out of it right away. Moldavine Reclamation. The more and more of these we stack into play. Fecundity as well. Other ones like that. Whenever a creature you control dies, you gain 1 life, draw a card. The more and more of these have in play, all of a sudden we play 1 creature, we sacrifice it, we draw 3 cards, whatever it is. Draw into more of those. Play them for free. Again, with those artifact creatures that basically cost nothing, or those ones that basically are like, hey, 1 in a green. All of a sudden, just a green mana can actually ramp us, can actually really take us to the point that we want to get to. Liliana Standard Bearer, also, again, with these big explosive turns that we can make with a commander like this with that cost reduction. 3/1 Flash Zombie Knight enters the battlefield, draws cards for X number of creatures that died under your control this turn. That is absolutely huge. Be able to say, okay, yeah, just big turn, sacrifice all these things, play all these things, draw these cards, play this, draw an absurd amount of cards, and yeah, you know what, it only costs us 2 mana because, again, our commander reduces that cost too. Also, hey, you know what, make the turn even bigger. Empty the Catacombs. Bring all those creatures back. Return all creature cards from all graveyards back to the owner's hands, essentially. So do that. Play all those creatures again. Sacrifice them again for absurd amounts of value. What's not to love about that? Golgari Germination again. Other ways to take advantage of sacrificing creatures. Whenever a non-zone creature control dies, you get a 1/1 Sapperling again for extra shenanigans, extra fun effects. Again, if you have like Fecundity in play, Moldavine Reclamation, extra value out of sacrificing those two. And of course, you can take your opponents out with like a Zulport Cutthroat, essentially. You have this in play. You drain your opponents by sacrificing your things at very, very quickly speeds. Or also, Emrakul's Evangel. My goodness. Tap, sacrifice it, another number of non-Eldrazi's, make a 3/2 Eldrazi for each creature sacrifice this way. So a one-time giant sacrifice outlet for us, which is nice, but also a game ender for us. Again, a lot of these like low to the ground, like 0/3s, 1/1s, whatever they are, before your turn starts, tap, sacrifice all of them. All of a sudden you have an army of 3/2s getting ready to just demolish your opponents after you gained all that value from, well, sacrificing them. So yeah, again, Umori the Collector. Many see as like, okay, a companion. Like, what can I add this to? No, this is a crazy good commander in and of itself. Yeah, you can go artifacts for very powerful deck as well. Creatures as well. But yeah, keep in mind those like artifact creatures that really work well with this one. So yeah, Umori, definitely an underrated commander in my opinion. Next up, how about Malphagor? Just 232 decks to its name. Because commanders that have like a downside, some players just don't like to play with at all and just say, I don't want to deal with that. Let me tell you, this one you want to deal with. I played against Malphagor decks. Oh my goodness, are they brutally effective. A 6/6 Demon Dragon with flying for 2 black, black, red, red. Enters the battlefield, discard your hand. Many players out there just stop right there and say, I don't want to play that. I don't want to lose my hand. And here's what I'm going to tell you. It's okay. It's going to be okay. Because also, each opponent sacrifices a creature for each card you discard this way. All of a sudden, this is a board wipe on your commander. Every single time your commander comes out, you're probably wiping the board. Now you're going to say, well, like, I'm going to have no hand. How do I wipe the board? We'll get there. Regardless, this is just saying, hey, opponents, you might not want to fill up the board too much because if you do, I'm taking out your creatures. If they get too aggressive, you take out all their creatures. They are done. If they don't get aggressive enough, they're not putting enough pressure on you. Then you can play with them in different ways. Like, hey, Sire of Insanity. Okay, you know what? Let's just even things out. Beginning of each end step, each player discards their hand. So all of a sudden, no one has a hand. And all of a sudden, you know what? They don't have an army again. You discarded your hand. You got rid of all their creatures. All of a sudden, you get this out in one way or another. We'll talk about some ways to do so, like, reanimation effects and whatnot. Get this out, and all of a sudden, you're like, okay, no one's got a hand. Ha ha ha. Have fun. You just go off the top of your library when I'm actually used to that. I built around that. I am ready for that because I also have things like Magus of the Wheel. 1 red, tap, sacrifice. Everyone discards their hand, draw 7 cards. Again, we have no hand. This makes it like 2 mana, draw 7 cards for us. Or how about some more just personal, ones that just affect us? Undays Ravager. Attacks each combat of Fable. Whenever attacks, discard your hand, then draw 3 cards. Again, if we have no hand, who cares? We're just drawing 3 cards on attack with this. Also, this is Madness for 1 red. We can take advantage of Madness cards again because we discard this thanks to our commander, play it for just 2 mana, or discard because of our commander or other effects too. Gearpor's Ori, a great one. Everyone gets playing extra land each returns. Look how friendly we are. You're welcome. But also on top of that, at the beginning of each player's upkeep, they have no cards in hand. The player draws 3 cards again. If we're not playing something like Sire of Insanity, we're focusing on ourselves not having a hand. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, okay, no, I got rid of my hand. Oh, no, oh, darn. Next upkeep, I'm drawing 3 extra cards. Lovely. Moving on, though, Containment Construct, a way to take advantage of, discarding things. And you got plenty of ways to do so in these colors. Whenever you discard a card, you may exile a card from your graveyard. If you do, play a card this turn. So again, you might discard things, but you still get access to them too in a weird way with something like this. Feign Death. Also take advantage of your commander's trigger and other triggers as well. Things dying. Till end of turn, target your gains. When it dies, return it back to the battlefield, tap with a counter on it. So again, being able to say, oh, okay, I built up a hand again. My opponent's creature's doing some crazy things. Let's get my commander taken out one way or another. Maybe you got some ways to take it out yourself. Bring it right back at that ETB again. Infernal Tutor. Again, there are advantages of having no hand. You can use a card like this. Reveal a card from your hand, search your library for a card same name. You're not going to be doing that unless you're getting a basic land, right, essentially. But if you're Hellbent, if you got no cards in your hand, instead, you get any card, get in your hand, then shuffle. This is basically a demonic tutor, but essentially for, just 58 cents instead of however much, 30 bucks. So yeah, a crazy good effect with this kind of a deck. Also, Rage Reflection. Again, your commander is going to have free reign to swing through your opponents, right? Again, you're taking out all these creatures also as flying. It's a 6/6, turn into a 2-shot KO very easily with this. Creatures you control have double strike. Again, you're wiping out your opponent's armies. Your army's going to be fine. Swing through. Your commander's a 2-shot KO with something like this. So yeah, you can definitely decimate boards, decimate hopes and dreams with Malphagor, and really take advantage of, again, not having a hand. There's a lot of ways to take advantage of that. So yeah, definitely an underrated commander that many people, again, they see discard a hand, they get scared, and they say, I don't want to play that. I'm encouraging you, give it a try. And speaking of risky, my final commander that I want to urge you to play with, give it a try, Evra Halcyon Witness. 843 decks to its name. A 4/4 avatar with lifelink for 6 mana in mono white. That already might just throw some players off and say, I don't want to play with that. I'm encouraging you. There's some crazy cool things that you can do with this one and unexpected things too. 4 mana, exchange your life total with its power. This is a huge play, but also a risky play at that, right? Because essentially you're like, okay, I go from 40 down to 4. I cut my life total down to 4. I lost 36 life essentially, but this becomes easily, of course, a 1-shot KO on anyone. So already, there's only so many commanders out there that can just be a 1-shot KO out of the box, essentially. This is basically one of them. Is there a risk to it? Yes, but there are ways to mitigate that risk, take advantage of that risk? Absolutely. How about a card like Children of Corliss? A 1/1 simple human rebel cleric for a single white mana. Sacrifice, you gain life, equal life lost this turn. Kind of like a Spore Frog in a way, but weird. But essentially, this is like, oh, okay, I lost 36 life. And yes, exchanging life total is losing life and gaining life, so keep that in mind. So for 1 mana, I'm like, okay, I gained back the 36 life I lost, and my commander is a one-shot KO, and basically nothing else happened. Cool. Yeah, there are ways to take advantage of that. Also, Soul's Grace, instant for 1 and a white. You gain life equal to our creature's power. Basically, again, gain that life right back and then some. Again, you were at 40. You switch down to 4. You gain 40 life. You're at 44 now. Congratulations, you're at more life than you already had, and your commander is massive and able to just demolish your opponents. How about Nykthos Paragon? This one's quite fun as well. 4/6 Human Soldier for 6 mana. Whenever you gain life, you may put that many counters on each creature you control. This only once each turn. Here's the thing again. The very first time you activate your commander, you are losing life, right? You're losing 36 life. Let's say that you activated it again and you switched it back, and then you gain that life back, essentially. What's happening there is you are gaining, again, 36 life, essentially. So you're like, okay, I'll get 36 counters on my commander. Again, turning it back into a 40-power creature. And also, all your other creatures get that many counters on it, too. So, yeah, all your other creatures are basically one-shot KOs as well, for the most part. Cradle of Vitality, again, another sneaky way to take advantage of this. Whenever you gain life, you may pay 1 white. If you do, put a counter on target creature for each 1 life you gained. Again, by swapping your life total and swapping it again, you're able to go down, go up, gain life, and all of a sudden get an absurd amount of counters on whatever creature you want. Of course, including your commander. Congregate. Also, there's just some simple, easy ways to gain a lot of life back if you need to. Target player gains 2 life for each creature on the battlefield, in speed for 4 mana. You're playing a game of Commander. There's going to be a lot of creatures out there. This can very easily gain you like 20, 30, 40 life. Just saying, like, you know what? There are ways to, be scared, if you're losing life, right, with your commander and going down to a low amount. But also there's ways to pad your life total quite a bit, which also keep in mind, if you're exchanging after utilizing this, your commander becomes even bigger, which is not really all that necessary unless you need trample to get it through with a lot of damage, but make sure you're keeping that in mind. You can also win with some weird cards like Axis of Mortality. I love this card. At the beginning of your upkeep, you have 2 target players exchange life total. So again, before your turn happens, right before your turn on your opponent's turn, you're like, okay, end step, I activate my commander, I go down to 4. All right, cool, my commander is huge. Great, good for me. Oh, upkeep, I swap life totals with you. Thank you, I'm back up to 40, you're at 4. Goodbye. Yeah, it's a crazy fun effect. And of course, Rogue's Passage. Very simple, very effective. You got a lot of ways to get your commander through. Again, basically a one-shot KO on anyone throughout the game as long as you set it properly. Quite a fun time to have. So yeah, again, these riskier commanders, one that maybe aren't as safe as other commanders, players just skip them right away. And I'm saying there's some crazy cool things that you can do. This one is definitely underrated. Make sure you check it out. But now as this episode is coming to a close, it's time for me to hear from you. So, in your opinion, what is your favorite out of all these commanders for the Brave? Are there any of these that you are going to tackle, going to try out, and unlock the secrets of? Are there any that I didn't mention that you think are underrated, underplayed commanders out there that other players need to give a chance to? So yeah, let me know in the comments below. If you're interested in any of these commanders, make sure you check out that card list link in the description below. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.